Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance player of, oh my goodness, sorry. I just had a huge sneeze before I went live. I'm glad I got that out of my system, but now I'm flubbing everything. Writer of words, recorder videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to my behind-the-scenes DMly live stream, Crafting the Golden Vault, in which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Keys from the Golden Vault. If you're playing character Shri, Element, Stacey, Tavina Vero, this video is not meant for you. It'll be full of spoilers, but for the rest of you, welcome. We stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube every Sunday starting this weekend. Hopefully you all got that major announcement update, which I only just put up like an hour ago, I think. You can join our official Discord server with invite link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/roguewatson. You can also support us by shopping for your tabletop games, CCGs, miniatures, RPG supplies, and more to our sponsor, Noble Knight Games, using my affiliate link. For our campaign, we use Roll20. For streaming, I use OBS Studio. Yes, we are switching our weekly live streaming schedules for the first time in like 8 years. We are going from Fridays to Sundays. I had a really great meeting and just group chat with all of my players, and we kind of just decided that based on our busy lives and everything going on, that we think moving to Sundays, coming off of a weekend versus a week, is going to be a lot more palatable for being able to sit down and enjoy and have fun hanging out with a virtual tabletop atmosphere. I know that's a big change for all of you who've been watching us forever. On the other hand, we've also been doing like live streaming Baldur's Gate 3 for the last like year, I think, at the same Sunday time slot. So hopefully it's just, we're doing a different thing on Sundays and you're tuning in anyway. And then at least right now, we'll just be swapping those two time slots. So that means Baldur's Gate's on Friday and D&D on Sundays, and then my crafting streams should still be the same for the most part that I can understand, and that's going to start as soon as this weekend. So that means the session that I'm planning right now is going to be for this Sunday's session, and then tomorrow is actually going to be Baldur's Gate. And again, I say Baldur's Gate, it's basically like a Let's Play time slot, I guess, since we've been live streaming that, and we won't always be playing Baldur's Gate, presumably. I mean, there are people out there who've played hundreds and hundreds of hours. Baldur's Gate's already one of my most played games of all time, I think, at like whatever it is right now, 150, 200 hours or something. So that's a lot for me. But I can't imagine we'll probably go through for a third playthrough. All right, for Keys from the Golden Vault. By the way, you all need to do a better job of pointing out when I haven't updated the session number in the upper right corner. I remember to do it this time, but I often don't remember to do it, and I'm sure it's confusing when people see that session number, as it could be either the last session or the coming session. I meant to always have it be the coming session, because that's what we're prepping for, but I don't always remember to update the overlay in that way. So please keep on it for me. I think we're going to just jump ahead and talk about kind of the ending of this area. Like, we've got the overlook. The party's still in the middle of this giant battle, which I've really turned into kind of a major boss battle. Which is why I think we're going to be going a little more later. I'm trying to come up with my words here. This has turned into such a major battle that I don't know how much more we want to do. I don't want to end it here because we still need to get to the workshop, but this may end up being like the satisfying boss battle, and the rest may kind of be falling action. Although I do have a cool boss creature plan that's still coming up. Because I meant for this to be phase 1 of the Tixie Tockworth battle. We'll see how the party handles this, because this may actually be 2 separate battles, or it could be 1 battle, depending on how they manage to get inside. If they get inside this area while this battle is still being fought, then it becomes just the same battle back to back. However, if they manage to defeat the swarms and the turrets and don't get inside here, then technically they get I don't know if they would get a chance to short rest necessarily, because being outside for an hour would be, I don't think you have time for that. But yeah, I don't think they'd be able to short rest, but they get like a breather, I guess, for whatever that's worth, and then they can hop inside and actually fight Tockworth with some minions for kind of a second big boss fight. But the goal may only be to grab the key that she wears around her neck, and she has her stat block specifically has a power that allows her to cast Dimension Door. The key doesn't allow that. She just has that ability. She has spellcasting. I'm gonna try to reflavor that as like tech stuff, although I'm really don't know how a tech thing can allow you to teleport. We could flavor text as like, oh, she turns on the jets and like a thing opens up and she zooms away, and that always seems kind of lame to me because that's not at all like Dimension Door is a straight up like teleporting away. So I don't know. Well, I'll figure something out in the heat of the moment. It might depend on what situation she's in. Is she still flying around, or is she like grappled by somebody? And then it would be, I'd really have to say, okay, she just teleports away. But the goal would be for her to escape this encounter ultimately. Whether or not the party actually gets her key is kind of irrelevant, although they wouldn't know that at the time, because they'll basically find her at the next area they're going to anyway. So I think that could be kind of interesting. But right now, they're still doing this battle. They've got 2 swarms remaining, and they've got 3 of the 4 turrets still activated. And it's a pretty tough battle for the party to try to get through. And like I said, if they all try to make it inside, they don't have to defeat the turrets, at least, because the turrets can't attack them while they're inside. So that's something that they haven't really... I don't know if they've not realized it, or... I don't know. It's one of those hard things where like you see enemies, you fight enemies, instead of like, oh, but the objective is like to get in this building so you can defeat the person behind the curtain, basically, who's controlling the turrets. So we'll see. Maybe Vero would probably be the one that would be able to pick the lock and make it inside. And then once they do that, I could see Tockworth, maybe she still tries to be at the controls and work the turrets, and he can tell that like, oh, they're actually like manually controlled or something. So once he actually engages her, maybe the minions can fight back. So it might not be immediately when they enter the building that it stops the turrets, but like once they start attacking her, I think that would interrupt the turrets, and they're not going to sit there and like sag and turn off or anything, but they just won't be like, maybe she has to like literally manually target them and all that. So that could be kind of an interesting quirk or addition to the fight that they might not even realize. The tech in D&D is powered by magic, so I don't think it's a problem for it to have spellcasting. Opens a portal and goes through, makes the portal look like a literal door. Okay, yeah, that helps. And that's true, I guess. You could also make the joke, what's that famous quote about, like, any sufficiently advanced technology is basically magic, for the other person who's witnessing it. Like, so you could kind of do it that way as well. But I also realize it's not necessarily Eberron. This is not a big... high-tech, high-magic world, although Forgotten Realms is very high magic, frankly, from what I can tell. So yeah, we'll come up with something for that, but it might just be her teleporting away, because that's just the thing that she wants to do here. But that will at least effectively stop the battle. I guess you could still have her Clockwork minions would be kind of attacking, but I would probably start hemorrhaging their hit points once they take out Tockworth, or once she has to feel the need to teleport away. Between you and me, I'm not going to let her be defeated here, which means she has technically infinite hit points. But I will gauge when she escapes the fight by when she gets down to like 30% or fewer hit points. So when she gets down to about 30 HP or lower is when she would trigger that, or barring, again, some kind of just, seeing how the moment is, seeing how the battle plays out, and all of that. But I kind of assume this fight could, between the one they're doing now and then the Tockworth one in the building, I think that's going to take up our full session. I also announced that we're doing, my goal is to have us be more like 90-minute sessions versus kind of the 2-hour-ish that we've been sort of doing basically before. So a little bit tighter schedule, and I think that will ultimately work out better for everyone. So that's all we've got planned for the actual next session, which is why I'm trying to get ahead of things now and actually talk about the final area, which, again, because of this big fight and, the party's resources and just how many sessions this is taking us, I think I'm okay with kind of wrapping things up pretty soon after this. Oddly, I don't think we've actually used too many spell slots. It's more about hit dice right now. But that's also because we have 2 funky spellcasters, frankly. One spellcaster is more about utility spells, so his rate of using spells is almost not tied to battle at all. He currently has 2 first levels, all 3 seconds, and all 2 third level spell slots for the wizard. And then our druid is a Circle of the Moon druid, so she can just wild shape during battle and actually not be casting spells at all. So she's got 3 first level spells, 2 second levels and both third levels. So spell slots, the spellcasters are doing just fine, but notice how the hit dice are not doing so hot at all. And I'm not even sure if their druid has healing spells. Let's take a look. She does have cure wounds. Okay, that would be a good use of the spell slots right now because the party is hurting for hit points. Daisy got really damaged already. She has no hit dice left. Damn, she's already at like 40% hit points or something right now in this at the start of this, or not at the start of this coming session. Tavine's probably doing fine because I can't seem to hit him at all. That deflect, actually he's 2 out of 5 on hit points. That freaking deflect attack ability is crazy. That's one of those things that you look at, you know, when you're reviewing the thing, and you're like, okay, this looks pretty strong. But man, seeing this in practice, the fact that it does, that you can reduce the damage with your dex modifier plus monk level, and you roll a 1d10 on top of that. So your dex mod is probably 4 or 5. His is a 4. Your monk level right now is a 5. That's a plus 9. So already you're doing a minimum, as a 1d10, you're doing a minimum of 10 damage of reduction every round. You know, it does take your reaction, but every round you can basically reduce an incoming damage by a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 20 damage. And it's just going to get better from there. Like, he could raise his dex, and obviously he'll raise his monk level. Damn, that's freaking strong. Now, it's only for bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing, I guess, so he can't use it for... Although, you know what? We read the fine print on this. It's only if the damage includes bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. It doesn't have to purely be that, because notice how a lot of those creatures I have actually did extra, like, lightning damage or something. But the way the fine print works, it says only if it includes regular damage, like martial-based damage, and then you can reduce the attack's total damage against you. So it still works against everything. Man, that's almost something I would have changed in, like, balancing. I would have said, okay, it can only reduce the damage of bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing, or because it seems very, very strong and awesome. Now, I do still like the redirect attack, that works. It takes you a focus point and all that. I almost feel like deflect attack should also take a focus point. Like, I don't know. As a DM who, like, has struggled to hit him, and then the few times I do, he uses that every single time. It has been crazy to see that in action. So, just an observation that I've had. Giving them control of the security panels doesn't really give them anything extra that they don't have currently, although they'll be able to turn the bridges back down, and then she won't be able to do that again, so they won't have to worry about that. Otherwise, they don't actually have any controls over... They will have a 3D... So, what cool thing we could do by giving them a reward for taking over the security center once she escapes, it does say that... and that's a good point. Attack often, because it is one reaction. And yeah, it's so far it's been balanced where, like, he's getting attacked like one time basically. Maybe it's just because they have a pretty martial heavy party too. If it was like the one monk, like, getting attacked by multiple things, that would be a problem. But they have a fighter and a often shapeshifted druid, and they have a rogue. It's a very martial heavy party, which works great for him because I'm usually only dedicating like one attack basically. And yes, that's definitely a recurring theme in all our campaigns. Reese does not like to be hit with any of his characters, so he either plays some kind... I guess he played a wizard in our first campaign, but after that, it's been... I guess I was able to hit him a lot when he was a shapeshifted druid, but druids, in 2014, had all the extra hit points, so it wasn't very satisfying to also hit shapeshifted druids. But after that, it was just tanky character, like really high AC, really great defenses, and all that. He definitely enjoys that. And yeah, that would be interesting if you counted up our campaigns of, because I do this at the end of each campaign. I go over stats about, okay, how many times did players go down to 0 hit points and all that. It would be fascinating if you added up all of those. I would bet that Reese overall has gone down to 0 hit points, the fewest of any other player in all our campaigns. I would probably take that bet pretty easily. But I did realize that for the security center, it mentions the fact that there is a 3D map of Little Lockford, and and it represents like all the bridges and stuff. And I thought, well, one thing we could do is also have it reveal where the enemies are. So that could be a really interesting reward where there's not like loot or treasure here, but there's knowledge as a reward. And the knowledge is now you can see where all the enemies are. So you can probably see, and it would probably indicate in like, I don't know, green or blue or white or something, the constructs, basically where they are at all times. Like she's got them like, you know, geolocated or something all around the area. So like you can see the one patrol like in Turbine Heights moving around. Maybe there's another patrol in Old Lockford with a flying drone somewhere, and then they can get a pre-look at like what the forces look like in Smolder Town. So that would be a cool heads up. And then maybe there's only a few in Cave Mouth. Maybe there's some like red dots in Cave Mouth that shows like, you know, blinking red dots. It shows there's like enemy forces like from the mines, like creatures and stuff. So that could be kind of an interesting reveal for the party, which means I need to be honest with them about what enemies I want to put in Smolder Town by the time they take over and gain access to the security panel, which whether they, again, get her key or not, they'll be able to meet up with her again when they reach Smolder Town, which is where the finale takes place. So I thought that was kind of a cool reward idea I could give the party, which I don't think is mentioned in the book, but it does say that there is a map in there that they can see everything. Where's it? Actually, L12. Yeah, magical projection. A harmless illusion that changes to match the current state of things in town. If a bridge is lowered in Lockford, the projections version of the bridge lowers as well. So I thought that you could just add basically more information to that 3D holographic image, is it would show everybody around. In fact, I could even show where Tockworth is, which might give them a clue about where to find her. I don't know why she would geolocate herself, but maybe that's just part of the, it would just kind of indicate, maybe because she's part construct, it would show up as like a weird, like half blinking image or something. Yeah, that maybe could be an interesting ploy there. So there's only 3 locations in Smolder Town. Oh, and then after they take it over, I would definitely allow them to short rest. I don't think I'm letting them long rest still this whole time. I just don't think it just doesn't make sense to let them long rest because she would be able to rally or bring up a lot of forces or something. So, I don't know. I would just tell the party it's not allowed, I guess. But they would definitely get a chance to short rest. And hopefully they would have, you know, they've got healing potions. I know that the NPCs that they brought with them have healing potions that they can give out. And then Elowen's got cure wounds. Like, hopefully they can make it work. But yeah, we're definitely going to be at the end. By the time they get through with this fight, they're going to be a lot more drained, a lot more weakened, and I don't want to throw too much more at them. Which I don't think there is much more. A lot of it depends on how much remaining patrols I want to throw into Smolder Town, which again, I think if we give them the information ahead of time, like maybe we show a cluster of a patrol marching around like this circle area or something, and then the party can move. In fact, I could even put a freaking token on the board to represent that. It's not a bad idea. Let's put you on there. Put them on the GM layer first, but I could have that be like, hey, here's the patrol, and then where's the observer? There we go. So you could also put the observer, like, because maybe it's in a different patrol scheme, and they could be patrolling a general area. So the party could see that information, then they could plan their route and try to time it really well. In fact, if they wanted to, they could even leave an NPC behind. Maybe give them one of the earpieces or something they have, which they haven't really needed to use at all this particular campaign. But then they could have that be the proverbial, like, you know, guy in the what am I trying to say? The person back with at headquarters with the monitors and stuff who's like calling into the field agents. They could have that, and I could even suggest that with my DM, like, yeah, you know, Kavoda or something could be like, hey, I'm all out of healing. I need to, you know, for the day, but I can stay here and monitor this and kind of talk to you guys about the patrols and stuff as they come, if they don't think about that. So that would be kind of a cool benefit to give them. But as I mentioned, there's only 3 locations here. There's the Foundry, there's the Tavern, and then there's the Workshop. The Workshop is the important one. which I think they do have this general information. So they were given that handout, which is where? I think it's the very first tab. Yep, Mayor Broadfort's map. So they have this information. So Smoldertown, yeah, there's only 3 locations, and they know, yeah, they know the workshop failsafe is here with multiple red arrows in the lower right corner. So that's where they need to go to, is the far side of Smoldertown. There's a foundry here, which I don't think they need to really interact with. They didn't take the bucket slag lines at all, which is fine. If they had, then they would deal with the foundry, but I don't think there's really, maybe some minor like tools type loot you can get there, but otherwise, no. The Motherlode, what does it even say here? I honestly can't even read this. A bit dingy? Divey? What is it? I have to get my book out. I have the player's handbook in front of me, but not the vault, the campaign book. Get my magnifying glass. I'm getting old. Okay. Yes, it says a bit divey. Okay. It's not a word we often use in the English language, I suppose. A bit divey, but home to the best whiskey in town. Such a waste, is what the mayor says on her notes. Why would you put that notes on the map? Anyway. So, it's... doesn't necessarily say it's a tavern, but you can assume that's a tavern or a bar. I imagine every D&D party is going to want to stop there for funsies. So here's what we could do. Because as it is written in the book, it says that she actually can be found at the tavern. In fact, I believe she's found at the tavern first, whereas I put her first in the security center. We could argue that she was in the tavern, and then once she was alerted to the party, because she can see out of the observers and whatever, then she was teleported to the security center. But for the purposes of the foundry, sorry, the tavern, Motherlode Tavern, unless she was defeated elsewhere, Tixie Tockworth sits on the bar stool farthest from the entrance, cradling an empty flagon while mumbling to herself. Now, there's some interesting story stuff that it seems to want to tease out, but then it never does in the book. It just says the presence of intruders confuses, disturbs, and annoys her. If she's confronted by the characters, or if the alarm spells are triggered, then she casts Dimension Door and teleports to the workshop for a final battle. And then she says, break time's over, Poots. The characters have no way to know this, which why would you introduce something they have no way to know? Poots is the name of an imaginary friend Tockworth invented in her childhood. The long-lost imaginary friend has resurfaced recently in response to Tockworth's mounting loneliness. Tockworth's mounting loneliness? Like, this is all very interesting stuff. So, we can do something here, right? Can't we have the party... First of all, we could tease the fact that she's in the tavern, not the workshop. And depending on what the party does, we could always have her teleport away because they know she can do that. Or maybe they'll try to just slap her with a... God. See, I want to do something fun, but then you worry as a DM that's like, oh, but then they're going to like... They could sneak up on her, and then Taveen can hit her with a stunning strike, and they could just dogpile on her until she dies. Which would be super unsatisfying, but technically efficient for the party. What I would like to do is turn this into a kind of a social encounter. And have her like cradling her beer or whiskey or whatever. And there's probably a robot butler in there. Who's maybe the same thing as the Enforcer stat block, but maybe doesn't have any of its attacks and just serves alcohol. And yeah, that she's just kind of almost like a classic Western or something, where it's just the character after a big fight is just sitting in a tavern alone, like drinking the whiskey. And the party could like try to talk to her and maybe even convince the fact that her like technological apotheosis is not the end all be all because it has made her incredibly lonely for connection. I don't know. I think that'd be very... I don't think we're the kind of group that's going to do that. But man, if I was writing this as a story, that's definitely the angle I would go, because I think that's really interesting narratively. And you could do it, like Baldur's Gate, basically, where you could have that be the intention, but the party could always just attack and fight, and we could turn this into a combat battle just the same. But I think that would be an interesting twist to have a villain that you fought recently and escaped, and find them in a tavern just being super sad and bummed out. I think that would be really disarming for the party and interesting. Maybe I'm off base here. Is this stupid? I do have a map for that. I have a map like that. Again, the map pack I've been using for Keeps in the Golden Vault has 2 maps for Smolder Town. One is includes the workshop, and the other includes basically the northern half of the map, the foundry and the tavern. The tavern is a little bit teeny tiny. I guess they are for gnomes, but man, I just think there's some cool potential for kind of using this. And again, if she needs to if the party wants to just throw down and fight, then I think she would just teleport away. And I wouldn't even want this to be like I don't want this to be like full of like minions and something. I'm thinking literally just maybe include her and like a single bartender robot and maybe nobody else. And I wouldn't even really include the bartender robot as having any attacks. It would literally just be like, it'd be like the Fallout universe where it's one of those like just jackass, like, howdy friend, what can I get you? Victor from Fallout show / video games. Which, man, I've been watching season 2 of Fallout, and the amount of fan service and references they cram into every single episode is astonishing. I guess it's impressive, but I do worry that's like, all right, I do want you guys to still tell like a good story and everything, but man, you guys are really covering so many fun, delightful things. I had to buy Fallout 4 again. I've played it on Steam like forever ago when it came out, but I bought it on PlayStation, and I was like, man, I'd explain. I'm already like constantly spoiling things for my poor wife who's watching it. And the first time they mentioned like the FEV thing, and I'm like, oh shit, it's the Forced Evolutionary Virus. And she just like looked at me, and I was like, oh, oh, you'll see. It's like I'm just geeking out about all that crap. I've been enjoying the Fallout games since the late 90s. Fallout 2 is one of my all-time favorite games. She's drunkenly singing some kind of song that screams, I'm a lonely Neferbublin. Never got it for the rest of the game. Man, that's so frustrating for a DM. I mean, it's cool because the players, like, this is what they do. Like, they're just super, like, defensive, and it is fun. But to me, I guess it seems like such a superpower thing, and the fact that the monk can do... I think I would feel a lot better if the monk had to expend a focus point to even do the deflect attack. And then maybe make it where if they... So what I would probably rebalance it and say is you have to spend the focus point to even do the deflect attack, but if you reduced it all the way down to 0, then you can also redirect attack without spending an additional focus point. Because I don't mind that as much as... I never mind the players doing extra damage, but them like completely mitigating the damage for... All it takes is your reaction is... Oof, seems painful for me. The group is very murder hobo. Yeah, I agree. We'll see. Sometimes they surprise me. They do. So it's just something I'll offer to them, basically. They'll see her in the tavern. Maybe they'll be like, ooh, let's just... I have a feeling they'll want to like sneak into the tavern and do something, but... Yeah, I could have her drunkenly singing and... I'm so lonely. Like, I don't know how best to do that, but I don't want to make it too obvious, but just basically her being really sad in there. And maybe as soon as they walk in, she just like says like, go away or something. But that kind of go away where it's like, you don't really want them to go away. You're sad. I could even go so far if they do a really great job role playing. I could even go so far as to having them convince her to like step down and basically kind of talk their way out of having to fight her again. I think I would definitely allow that. I think it would definitely require some really good role playing and require a pretty big check, a skill roll. I think that's fair for this. I don't know whether to do it contested, or it's always tricky on whether to do a contested when you're trying to persuade somebody to let them do something back or to just make it a DC. I think the new rules, and to some extent the old rules, would always prefer it to be more of a DC, like a skill challenge specifically, I guess, versus having the other one. Because I don't know, I feel like whenever they roll charisma, you want to roll like, you know, wisdom or insight to kind of counter that. Or you could just make it like, oh, this is like a DC 20, for example. This is like a hard thing to convince somebody to not go through with their life's work. But you could also give people advantage if they do a good job role-playing. And worst case scenario, she's got another use of Dimension Door that she can use to teleport away. In which case, I would probably put her directly in the workshop. If she teleports away because she's upset or angry at the party, then she would teleport back to her workshop, I think, is the last place to go. So yeah, I think we're going to include this as a purely social encounter, which means I probably won't even necessarily use this map unless they really want to treat it like they're a heist thing who's like sneaking in. Because, as we've discussed numerous times in the past, once I introduce a battle map, then the party starts thinking fight, right? And I don't want to necessarily do that. So we may actually treat this as just leaving it on this. I'll have the other map prepped up just in case. I still need to put dynamic lighting on both these maps. But I think I may not, unless it does turn into a fight, in which case I'll let her defend herself and teleport away. She would probably teleport away first thing, honestly, that she can. But we'll probably leave them on this overall Lockford map. Which brings us to the last thing, which is the workshop. So the workshop, like everywhere else, is very underdefended, and it really leaves it up to the DM to determine like what the various patrols are, and we can still put like, you know, a bigger patrol going around that the party can avoid. As is written, the only thing defending the workshop is there's a spell, which I did not tell them about from the mayor, because I don't like that the mayor knows that information. There are 2 animated armors, which I'm going to upgrade to the Clockwork Enforcers I've been using in here, named Rack and Pinion. And then the workshop itself is guarded on the outside by a Shield Guardian. So a Shield Guardian is an interesting stat block. It did get buffed a bit in the 2024 edition. But it's also a very tanky defensive creature that's not particularly interesting to run, except for one thing it can do, which is that it can store a single spell and then unleash that spell using the DC and stuff that the spellcaster used to insert it there. It's also designed to literally be a defensive tanky guardian for presumably a powerful spellcaster, and its reaction is just to add +5 AC to its charge, basically, as long as they're right next to them. None of that's going to be a thing for here, because I don't plan on actually having Tockworth battle with this thing. I just have this thing being like a giant mech, like her biggest, best creation, that she's not actually going to fight with, I think. Because either they're going to talk her down in the bar, or she'll just teleport like into her workshop itself. So I've tweaked the stat block a little bit. First of all, the spell I decided to give it for its one use of the spell storing thing was Confusion, because I figured you might as well use a highest level spell you can at level 4, because the party's level 5. And I can reflavor Confusion as like a sonic, I'm picturing like the Stranger Things season 5, where they had these like, or anytime they fight Venom in the comics, where they have some kind of like sound machine that basically just fucks up and hurts and irritates, like debuffs basically what people around them. So I thought I can reflavor the confusion spell as Sonic Disruptor, which makes you just go so crazy that you either walk around aimlessly or you even attack the nearest person. Like, it just does terrible things. So it's still a Wisdom save for a DC 14, like purely sound based basically. I would have it probably around it, and a 10-foot radius isn't big, but technically the spell does let you do it up to 90 feet away. So I guess he could do a weird thing of like pointing and having the Sonic Disruptor appear there, but more than likely I'll try to do it around him if I can. Also, I'm only letting him do it once to, again, use the mechanics of the spell storing. So it's just reflavored confusion spell. But I also gave it another feature, which is a laser eye. So the Shield Guardian can normally just punch people. It was given twice the amount of damage it can do. The old version only did bludgeoning damage. The new version does bludgeoning and force damage. 2d6 plus 4 bludgeoning and 2d6 force damage with a plus 7 to hit, and it can do that twice. That's great. And I thought, well, let's also give it a cool range attack. So the new artwork is really cool looking. And it looks like it's, I don't know, got this unique, like, I don't know, this thing just screams laser eye at me. It looks like Cyclops or something. So I thought, all right, well, he's going to shoot a laser out of his eye. And I really wanted to do like a beam thing. So I borrowed the breath attack from dragons, basically the lowest, the wormling dragon. I think I specifically looked at the bronze one maybe, and said that, okay, on a recharge of 5 to 6, can activate its laser eye, where it shoots forward in a 40-foot long, 5-foot wide line. Creatures must make a dex save in that line, or take 3d10 force damage on a failure, or half damage on a success. And I tied the DC as the same as Tockworth's DC for both the confusion spell and its laser eye as a DC 14. So I've definitely cranked up the mechanics of the Shield Guardian. It already is pretty dang tanky. It's got an AC of 17, which is actually not as high as the minions, but hit points are through the roof. We're getting 142 hit points. Its reaction, I don't think, is ever going to come into play, and I'm probably honestly going to ignore its regeneration as well. I think it's just got enough hit points. I don't necessarily think it needs to regenerate 10 hit points. Also, not sure to flavor that as a construct. I guess it's like the gears are like shifting and knitting things around, but that feels a little too magical versus the tech creature that I'm kind of picturing here. So I'm probably going to ignore the regeneration, and it's just going to make the fight last that much longer anyway, which I don't necessarily want to do. Bound, I don't think will come into play either. So kind of getting rid of some of its abilities and giving it other abilities, I guess, in a way. That's the Tockworth Guardian version of the Shield Guardian. I guess we could give it more hit points because we did kind of make it a big boss. Let's see if we can get above. Wow, I rolled exactly average. Let's keep rolling until we get above average. I have not. Okay, 150. That took quite a few rolls. 150 hit points. And the cool thing is, the party could treat this like a mini heist that they have to get past this creature and get into the building. Again, if I were writing this as a story to where I can decide all the things, then the way that would make the most exciting story to me is to split the party, of course, and have some members of the party distract the enemies outside, while others slip inside and thus have to take down Tockworth and then these two Clockwork enforcers. Or, even more exciting, don't have to take down anything. Just make it inside and insert the keys. Maybe they already have it from Tockworth. Maybe they have to fight her here to get it. And then you can shut down all of the Clockworks at once as soon as you make it to the failsafe and activate it. So I think pretty exciting thing there that gives the party an extra motivation to get through, rather than just the slog of having to fight every one of these creatures. Now, as written, the Shield Guardian is by itself. We could still do that. And I might actually still do that, again, depending on where the party's resources are. I threw a bunch of Clockwork Defenders on here because, even a cool boss, like, it just, you don't want to put your bosses by themselves too much. And a Guardian, it is immune to a lot of conditions, which is good. It can't be paralyzed, frightened, charmed. It could still be stunned, though. It's only immune to poison damage, too. Also, Guardians, interestingly, only have a blind sight of 10 feet. seems oddly worse than a lot of the other minions. So interesting bit there. Anyway, maybe I'll just put the two. Maybe I'll just put two guys here, and then the rest can be like a patrol that the party will probably be able to avoid. Unless things go really badly, but we could always make... If the party's like really trying to run around and escape the Shield Guardian, they can always run into another patrol or something. But these would probably be like the bare minimum forces they'll have to deal with. And they can see that there's like one larger one right outside the workshop and two others. And then I could even give them the information that there's two inside. I don't know. Yeah, I could tell them that there's two inside the workshop. So it's not completely clear. I think that's interesting. You get updated heist information 3/4 of the way through the heist. Basically, it gives you all the It's like in a video game, you unlock the map, like the Zelda map of the dungeon, right? Although in this case they've had the map. I guess it's more about upgrading additional details where suddenly you know like specific information. Why not lightning to keep with the theme? I could do lightning. You mean instead of for the laser? I guess that I was just trying to think of like a force blast, like Cyclops' laser beam, or God, I'm almost picturing. I guess it'd be more like radiant damage, like the destroyer from the first Thor movie, where just like and that laser comes out. Force damage just feels like a generic thing to do. I don't know. I could also add like it knocking people backwards. I think could be interesting. So it's literally like the Cyclops concussive blast, where it like hits him and knocks him backwards. That's almost more bludgeoning damage than force damage, I guess. But yeah, I could add that. It knocks people back like 5 or 10 feet, maybe. Everybody who's in a line, crunk. Which could get awkward if you shoot people in a line, and the second person in the line makes the save and doesn't get knocked back, but the first person does. Like, do they get knocked into the other person? Like, how does that work? So it might be a little too silly. I don't know. And then the actual inside the workshop, which again, they've got a pair of Clockwork Enforcers in there. This is on the map, and it's supposed to be very visible. It's an, what does it look like? Inscribed on the floor is a complex geometric design that pulsates with light. In the middle of the design, embedded on the floor, is a 1-foot square metal box. That's a very tiny, with a keyhole in the top of it. I have to make sure I update it to 2 keyholes. What I would probably flavor this as is, instead of a circle, it would be a dome. And it would look like a dome of... I almost picture the meme of the woman who's like very confused with all like the art... Or not the art, the mathematical shit going on. So it's like just a bunch of like gears turning and numbers flashing. Like it's this weird like dome of just scintillating numbers and formulas and stuff in there. And obviously you can use detect magic, but it doesn't take a genius to realize something's going on in there. What it does is that whenever a creature other than Tockworth, I would also say that Clockworks are, which Clockworks are immune actually because of the effect it does, enters the space or starts their turn there, they become the target of a Crown of Madness spell of a DC of 15, which is actually higher than what she can cast, which is kind of interesting because normally her spell save DC is a 14. That is a duration of 1 minute. Crown of Madness, as you may recall, I believe it's a 2nd level spell, and it causes you to attack somebody nearby. Must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or have the charmed condition for the duration, which constructs are immune to charm. So that's kind of an easy way of them not being affected. It also says the creature succeeds automatically but isn't humanoid. So it even goes further than that. A spectral crown appears in the charmed target's head. I would literally like flavor that as like the meme of like being confused by numbers and shit. And it must use its action before moving on each of its turns to make a melee attack against a creature other than itself that you mentally choose, but there's nobody mentally choosing that, I guess. So maybe it's... I don't know how to flavor that. The target can act normally on its turn if you choose no creature or if no creature is within its reach. So this is a disappointing part of this, obviously, is it doesn't actually do anything if somebody steps in there and there's nobody around it. And in fact, there's probably going to be enemies around it. So now that I'm thinking about it, I may want to change this to something else. Probably Hypnotic Pattern makes more sense, right? Although, is that one where they get hit and then it turns off? Crown of Madness is a neat idea, but it works better. I don't think it works really good as a trap because of that reason, because it only affects one person who steps in. As long as that person's not next to anybody else, then actually nothing bad happens, right? So that's actually very limited for a trap. It's great to use during combat when an enemy can target a person who's next to other allies and thus can immediately get that off or motivate the others to like get away from that person. But for a trap, I think it's a little bit awkward for that reason. I wonder if this got changed in 2024. If it had the little rider on there that like they attacked themselves, which is pretty dark. If they couldn't attack anybody else, then that would be a more effective spell, I think. But also it's a level 2 spell. Hypnotic Pattern would be making it more challenging, level 3. But also it's a twisting pattern of colors, which is something I just kind of mentioned as being that effect. Each creature in the area who can see the pattern must succeed on a wisdom save or have the charm. So it's still wisdom, it's still charmed. And instead of attacking people, they just have the incapacitated condition and a speed of 0. But it does end if they take damage or if someone else uses an action to shake them out of their stupor. So yeah, I think I'm going to go with Hypnotic Pattern instead. I think I have convinced myself of that. Let's see. So my notes are to change Tockworth's Workshop Trap from Crown of Madness to Hypnotic Pattern. We can still say keep the DC of 15. And the constructs would hopefully know not to fight anybody who's been incapacitated, I guess, by that. And it lasts for a minute. And then Tockworth will be there also, so she'll just hope everybody gets caught in this trap. You could also have it just be the sleep spell, but the enforcers actually already have the sleep spell baked in. Which has gone off briefly against Cherie in one fight, but they do have a sleep gas ability that they've been able to employ. So yeah, it's a little bit of a trap there with somebody who's coming in. Now, if they had something like Mage Hand or something like that that could carry the keys and do that, I think I would allow it, honestly. I don't think they do have Mage Hand. I don't actually remember. Cherie be the one that would have it. This is like me making fun of Chris's Gale not having the light spell. Have we seen him use Mage Hand? No, because he does not have it. Okay. No Mage Hand. That would be a good use here. I'm sure they would have some clever way of getting past it, perhaps. But, or just send, like, Tavine in there. He's got an awesome wisdom save. But, you know, Brute Rush, they get multiple people in there. Certainly, they can make the save. And then all you have to do is slam those keys in. I would probably require probably an action, honestly, to do that, to put the 2 keys in. If I didn't already have artwork of it being a small little box here, I could try to do the fun thing where it's like, oh, it's the big console, and 2 people have to insert the keys and turn them at the same time or some crazy thing. But I don't think that's going to be the case here because I don't want to change all this artwork too much. So it's just going to be a little box. We're just going to put 2 keyholes there, and once they insert those keys and turn them, which will take the use an action or use a device action, whatever that action is called, that Vero can do like as a bonus action. And then he can activate that to turn off. And then once it turns off, Little Lockford's Clockwork Defenders, Observers are rendered unconscious indefinitely. It also deactivates the magic of the geometric design on the floor and ends any ongoing effects of its magic. So yeah, everything just shuts off. Which at this point, you'll probably have to fight Tockworth to the death, I guess. I think it does say that her jetpack explodes. So she actually kind of explodes when she dies? Is that still part of her stat block? I might have had to add that in there. It's not actually part, so maybe it's written down somewhere. Is it in the overlook? There we go. If Tockworth, it's not in her stat block, weirdly, but it says if she's reduced to 0 hit points, her jetpack explodes in a 20-foot radius sphere, blowing Tockworth to smithereens. I love that that's included in there. Every other creature within that sphere must succeed on DC 15 dex save or take 3d10 piercing damage from flying shrapnel. So just a final thing that could explode and deal damage. I guess we can add that to her stat block. Oh yeah, I should give her full 99 hit points too, because we are doing that, damn it. She's a boss. She gets max hit points. That is considered a trait, I guess. We can still click on, yeah, I can still click on traits. Actually, no, we should make this an, it's not an action, technically. Oh, explode. Okay. There, copy paste. It's not an attack, it's a save. Or the creature. Tockworth, mechanical parts explode, blowing her body to smithereens. I'm going to include that for sure. Every other creature within, what do we say, 20 feet, 20 foot radius. A 20 foot radius, max 16 DC 15 dex save. Or take 3d10 piercing damage from flying shrapnel. You could also include like fire damage, I guess. I feel like an explosion would be fiery at some point. Who doesn't like, yeah, the Predator Bomb? Predator Bomb, except not nearly as high damage. 3d10 piercing, like, I mean, yeah, it can be. But I feel like the Predator Bomb was like a mini nuke. Which would be like 10d10 damage or something. But also with the Predator Bomb, you have like a minute to respond, whereas this one is just instant explosion. I kind of want to add... How much does the Defenders explode for? Let's add that in there. Because I made them blow up too, didn't I? 2d6 fire damage. Let's just add that. 3d10 piercing plus... Oops. 2d6 fire damage. Explode! Doctor's mechanical parts explode, blowing her body to smithereens. Every other creature within a 20-foot radius must need a DC 15 dex save or take, and this time I rolled it pretty above average. 17 piercing and 9 fire damage. That would be 26 total damage. Pretty nasty if you're not expecting it. Also, DC 15 is a lot higher. Force plus... Now, see, now you want me to do force. Or I could do lightning. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know if any of these damage types really matter in the grand scheme of things. I guess that... I think Shuri has absorb elements is the only thing it would matter. Like, we don't have a barbarian for rage purposes. I guess necrotic and radiant damage does matter for Taveen. And I think that's about it. I'm trying to think if individual damage really matters to this particular party, but I believe Shuri does have absorb elements, which could technically come into play. But I'm gonna keep her on the GM layer because she might even be in this fight if she decides, if the party is able to talk her down and not be included in this fight. She might even hand over her key, and maybe the party has to like lie to her or just say like, hey, you stand down and the gnomes will welcome you back, and you can have your friends back. I don't know. I'm willing to work with them on this. Also, if the party just wants to lie to her, they totally can, because I think the gnomes would just fucking execute her. And it would be pretty dark, ultimately. Yeah, it would be interesting. Certainly interesting flavoring to go, but that's for the bar scene when they can actually get a chance to talk to her, which is interesting, is usually... you're only doing your chat before you fight, and this time I'm trying to introduce a chat after a big fight, which is the one that we'll probably handle in our previous session, or in our next session, sorry. It matters for Taveen. Yeah, that's true. As well, as long as the damage includes piercing, slashing, or bludgeoning, right? That's the only thing that matters. If it doesn't include that, like the laser eye beam, for example, would only do force damage, or even if I made it lightning damage, whatever, then he couldn't deflect the attack at all. But if it includes any amount of piercing damage or bludgeoning or slashing, then he can do his deflect to try and reduce that damage. If he's got the reaction, which gets kind of tricky if something's attacking him. Something explodes and maybe he already used it that round or something. I always find it honestly kind of tricky to remember who's used when reactions when. That's just, I don't know, I wish there was a better visualization, I guess, of showing people having used their reaction or not. I feel like if it was a video game, there would be like a little thing filled in or something, or a little icon next to the player or something that would kind of keep track of that sort of thing. So I don't think we have too much more left for this campaign, honestly, and which is fine. I think it's gone really well so far. I've been enjoying it. We spent one session in Old Lockford, one session at Halfway Isle. I think one session in Turbine Heights. Actually, I think it's kind of broken down that way, hasn't it? And then we'll end up spending kind of one session getting out of Turbine Heights and into the Overlook and then starting the fight. And then the second session finishing the fight in Overlook. And then we're probably looking at another 2 sessions to get through Smolder Town. Like one to like plan out the heist. Like the heist within a heist is like getting to the workshop and trying to figure out how to get in there and what's the best methods and all of that, which, gosh, even if they do really well with Tockworth and she wouldn't know that until they get to the tavern at least and talk to her, but she could even kind of give them her blessing to do that, but then she wouldn't necessarily help them in combat or anything either. I think they would have to be a whole nother check, I think, to help her even help them. I don't know, that'd be interesting. We'll see if they go that far with the friendship angle. I don't see them doing that necessarily, but I want to offer it to him. And yeah, once they've got the failsafe activated, the nice thing is that's it. You don't have to fight your way out of the dungeon. It turns off all of the various clockwork enemies, and they can get the hell out of Dodge. There's not a lot of loot in this one, to be honest. Like, they got some healing potions, and I think Kavoda gave them some scrolls. I believe, assuming he survives this mission, he will reward them with his Stone of Good Luck, which he has. Otherwise, there's not. I think there's an upstairs to the workshop that might have some loot if they decide to loot stuff from her. Yeah, treasure. There's a safe upstairs in her room that has a DC 20 dex check to open it. Although, presumably they have her key. I wonder if that would also open the safe. Now, the safe door is normally where the key is found, but I put it on her instead. So, normally the only thing in here is an onyx-studded jewelry box, which is worth 250 gold. And then the box contains a ring and 3 gems. So it's just pure gem style, which is still good loot. There's just not a lot of magic items, I guess. But also, the interesting thing about this campaign is the party is supposed to gain magic items, I think, after each mission as a reward from their quest giver, from Trench. So that's what I did last time, I believe, is they were all, after the Stygian Gambit, they were all given a magic item of uncommon level. In fact, is that information in here? Conclusion. The character is working for the Golden Vault. The organization's representative is waiting with Mayor Broadfoot to confirm that automatons were shut down. I'm not going to put Trench down there. Once the representative confirms the character's success, the organization rewards them with a rare magic item of their choice. Whoa. Last time I gave them an uncommon, they're already up to getting rare items? Goodness sakes. I'll have to think about that. That's pretty powerful. I'll have to see what kind of items they have right now. And, like, maybe I'll look up the chart on, like, how many items they're supposed to have and everything. But I don't think they're supposed to have access to collectively 5 rare items by level. Now, they will level up to 6. They'd effectively have 5 rare items by level 6. That doesn't quite math out to me correctly, but we can... I don't know, we can talk about that some more. We've got another, like, probably 2 weeks or so. All right, that is going to do it for this Crafting the Golden Vault. If you enjoy the content, as always, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. Remember, our new schedule change. We're not going to be here, or I am going to be here Friday for doing Baldur's Gate, is the plan for this Friday night. And then for Sunday night, we'll actually be playing our Dungeons & Dragons stream. Shouts to Platinum patrons: Joe, Will, Thomas, Brandon, Genocide, Roleplayer, Roll, Christopher, Big Nut, John, Nathan, Andrew, Stephanie, Jason, Lemmy, Spuns, Warren, MLC, Tom, the Dogs, Marcus, Hugo, Jealous Guy, Zim, Dante, How About Demnix, Chris, and Robert. Gold patrons: RPG, Paper Cramps, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Liz Lounge, Jerome, Nathan, Scott, Rufus, Drake, Glenn, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support. So we'll see you then.